It's been a month since you found out about all Mafia shit and about Yunjin and Lino. It was all too much thrown at you at once. In a matter of 12 hours, your whole world turned upside down. Jungkook's parents needed to go back to Italy because Mr. Jeon had some Mafia job to do over there. So they left a couple of days after that incident. Somi stayed here because her school was starting. I mean, she's having online school, but still, she decided to stay here. You and you and Mr. John weren't really for it, but she had Jungkook and you two back her up along with Yunjin and Lino. Now, speaking about those two, they also stayed here because of some kind of problem Jungkook and Mark are having. They tried to speak to you multiple times, but you was just plain ignoring them. They even tried to buy you chocolate, knowing how much you loved them, but you would just brush them off. I mean, they need to see from your side you felt betrayed. You thought that every damn thing they told you was a lie. You just didn't have trust in them. But after 2.5 weeks of your torture, you finally conclude that you need some answers. You was thinking about it the whole day yesterday, but you didn't dare to face them. You was scared, but not simply scared. You was scared to the point that you didn't eat the whole day yesterday, which got them all worried. You just wasn't feeling hungry when you had that many things on your mind. You was beating yourself with what ifs. What if everything was a lie? What if you don't like the truth? What if they lie to you again? What if? Finally, you decided that you had enough with all that shit, so you went into the kitchen to grab water and think about how you are gonna approach them about it. Walking into the kitchen, you find two persons which you would usually ignore, but now it's time to change that. You walked in and their heads snapped towards you. Xiao, they both said at the same time. Hi, you whispered, and you could tell that you took them by surprise because their eyes bulged out. When their shock wore off, they cleared their throats and looked at each other, having silent conversation with their eyes. Lino, I mean Matthew, was forced to break the slightly awkward silence that fell over you all. So, how are you? He said silently, like he was scared if he says that any louder you would run away. I'm fine, you said equally silent, looking at them. Then you turned around and reached for a glass so you could get water. How are you both? You asked as you was pouring water into the glass. Been better. Same. Came as their answers and you nodded at that. You leaned on the kitchen counter while tracking the surface with your fingers. You cleared your throat, deciding that it's now or never. So, do you want to talk about it? You said, not lifting your eyes. You was scared even more than before. At this point, your heart leaped in your throat from fear. Not hearing an answer, you slowly lifted your head to see the two of them already looking at you with guilty looks on their faces. Yeah, I think we should talk about it, all of it, Jihan said with a slight smile which made you give him one little also. So you all went to sit on a couch in living room. So, you started. What are your real names then? Well, you probably heard Jungkook call us by our names, but it would be proper if you introduce ourselves. So, with that said, I'm John Jihan, said Yunjin while extending his hand. You chuckled at the gesture but accepted it nonetheless. He took your hand and brought it to his lips, kissing it lightly, and then shot you a wink. Matthew then cleared his throat to get both of your attention. "I'm Matthew Rocca," he said with a smile. "So in that conversation you found out that the only thing that they were lying about this whole time was their names and family business. Everything else was the truth. They didn't lie about anything else. That made you feel slightly guilty because you ignored them for so long, and in the end that wasn't their fault. They couldn't really go around talking about how they are in the mafia." You are currently sitting at the dining table eating late lunch while talking. You got even closer with Jungkook over those 2 weeks that you ignored his brother and Lino. He would always ask you how you are feeling or do you need anything. It was so sweet. Only Yunjin would act like that towards you. Felix, you are missing him so much. You mean you hear from him over the phone almost every day, but it's not the same as in person. During the lunch, Jungkook's phone rang and he picked it up. "Hello? Yes? When? Good. Where exactly? Be there. Let's go," he said as he stood up from the chair along with the guys and left the room, but not before he kissed Jihoon and whispered to him, "Te amo, I love you." He then turned to you. "I will be late tonight. You don't know why, but that scared you." Jungkook was having peaceful lunch when Mark called about finding some lead on Russians. He immediately got up and along with the boys headed towards the warehouse. "What's happening?" Yunjin asked as they entered the car. "We got a lead." That was all he said to him to understand not to ask anything anymore until they arrived at the warehouse. "I hope it's a good one," Jihan muttered under his breath. After a short ride towards the warehouse, they exited the car as they were immediately greeted with Mark and Lino. "We got the location of one of their warehouses. What do you want to do, boss?" Mark said. "How much of them is there?" he asked him. "It shouldn't be more than 20. "Okay, what about location?" "Location is actually funny," he said with an extremely nervous chuckle. "You see, it seems that they didn't move too much from their last warehouse, which we attacked and found empty. It's just 2 miles away from their last one, but it also is also hidden with thick forest," he said, and that made Jungkook furious. Those fuckers were in front of his nose all this time and no one figured it out. "Gather the men we are attacking tonight." That was all he said before he entered the warehouse to grab his stuff. After gathering everything and everyone, they headed towards the location. They didn't go all the way because if they did, that wouldn't be a surprise attack. So to stop that, they stopped a mile away from them. They split into 4 groups to easier attack unexpectedly and to cover more surfaces without being detected. "Okay, listen up. Try not to kill them all. Maybe some one of them can tell us something. Something useful about Geneva's location, but if needed, shoot them dead. Understand?" "Yes, boss," they said all together, and then Jungkook took his group and started to go forward towards the location. As they got near the warehouse, he heard rustling from in front of him on his right. Turning to see, spotted two Russians smoking. Jungkook quickly grabbed his gun with a silencer on and turned towards them, shooting them both in the head. He didn't really have a choice. There they were too close to the door, so he wouldn't stand a chance if one of them dashed inside. The warehouse was silent, maybe too silent for his liking. They slowly crept towards the entrance but got stopped when Russians started to run out of it while shooting at them. That got him by surprise, and he didn't have time to react quickly enough as bullets started to fly his way. Shit, he growled. You were sitting on your bed, not be able to sleep. You couldn't get that weird feeling that something isn't right. Jungkook still didn't come home, neither did the guys, and that's what's worrying you. It's 2:40 a.m. and they still aren't here. They would call if something happened, right? You are probably worrying up without a reason. They are probably your thoughts got cut short by voices in the hallway. Are you sure you got that? I could just call Doc. I'm fine, go to sleep. But you, I'm fine, go. Okay, good night. You couldn't recognize voices because they were muffled through the door, but you think they belongs to Yoonjin and Jungkook. Getting up from your bed, you walk to the door trying to hear anything else. After not hearing anything, you opened the door and walked out, turning towards Jungkook's room. As you turned in direction of his room, you slapped a hand over your mouth in a try to stifle a gasp. There next to the door stood groaning Jungkook, covered in blood, but not like last time. This time there was more blood over him and he was gripping his upper arm while leaning against the wall. Upon hearing your gasp, his head shot to you. His eyes slowly trailed over your body and then rested on your face. Oh God, are you okay? You asked him with a shaky voice. Yeah, he grunted, then pulled himself off the wall. Go to sleep. Are you sure? Do you need some help? You asked again, starting to walk towards him. I'm fine. He snapped, which stopped you in your tracks. He then took a deep breath to calm himself, and you could see his face discomforting in one of pain. Just go to sleep, don't worry about me, he said this time in a quiet and calm voice. You shook your head, coming to stand next to him. No, I'm not going to sleep. You need help. Let me help you. You said and didn't wait for an answer as you opened the door of his bedroom and pushed him lightly inside. I'm fine. He began to speak, but you cut him off instantly. No, you are not. You are hurt and you need help. You are not giving up, don't you? He asked, and you shook your head. You led him towards his bed and told him to sit. Where do you keep first aid? You said as you looked at him. It should be in the bathroom, in the top drawer, I think, he said, and you dashed to the bathroom. After finding what you were searching, you turned back and walked into the room only to find Jungkook without his shirt, with his back turned towards you. And let me tell you, those fucking butterflies started to fly again. Snapping out of your thoughts, you walked closer to him and tried to look only at his face, which was extremely hard to do. Putting the first aid kit on the bed next to him. What happened? You asked as you looked better at his wounds. He had one wound on his left upper arm and one on the right side of his stomach. They weren't bullet wounds because that would mean that there would be a hole, right? There were scratches but deep ones. You even think that he would need stitches for those. He also had small scratches and bruised knuckles. Jungkook looked at you for some moment like he was deciding to tell you or not. Then he sighed. You remember when I told you about Russians? He asked and you nodded slowly while bending and grabbing alcohol to clean his wound on the arm. Well, we got a lead on one of the... He stopped himself as you started to clean his wound. Sorry. You squeaked as you saw him flinch a little. I know that is burns, but I need to clean your wounds. It's okay, he said silently and then returned on speaking. Anyway, we found a lead on one of their warehouses, but when we got there, instead of surprising them, they surprised us, he exclaimed with a heavy sigh. You nodded your head while listening to him. But how did they know? You asked as you started wrapping his upper arm. He shook his head at that question, not saying anything. Maybe you have someone who works for you, but also for them too. You know, like a spy or something? You said after a couple of seconds as you finished wrapping his arm. He looked at you for some moment, then nodded his head. Yeah, that's what we were also thinking. You nodded your head and got on your knees right in front of him and started to clean a wound on his stomach, not looking at him. Well, did you try to do something like, do you have any suspicion about who it could be? You asked while cleaning his wound. After a couple of seconds of not receiving any answer, you looked up at him to see a look of shock and amusement on his face. Not understanding why, you snapped your fingers in front of his face to get him back on earth. Are you sure that you are okay? Do you want me to call Jihan? Wait, didn't Jihan and Matthew went with you? Are they got shot too? You asked as you slightly started to panic. What if they are shot? What if they are hurt? What if their wounds are worse than this that Jungkook has? Oh god, what if they are dead? Jungkook snapped out of his thoughts and quickly shook his head. No, don't worry, they are fine. They got just a couple of scratches from jumping into bushes, that's it, he said upon seeing your face. You sighed shortly. Okay, but are you okay? He smirked. If I knew better, I would say that you are worried about me, he said and then winked at you while you blushed furiously. You shook your head. Of course I'm worried about you. Who would pay me if you died? You said jokingly while sending him a wink. On that, he started to laugh and you joined him. After the laughter calmed down, you added, but all jokes aside, of course I'm worried about you, you said as you returned to clean his wounds. There was comfortable silence around you both while you went to wrap his wound. However, after a couple of tries, you realized that that wouldn't be so easy till he stayed seated on the bed. Mostly because it looked like you was hugging Jungkook and you couldn't wrap it tightly enough without pressing yourself onto him. Could you please stand up so I could wrap your stomach? You whispered while looking up at him. He nodded his head and stood up, and that was the moment when you realized how fucked up your position actually is. You on your knees and him standing in front of you. Nice. You furiously shook your head to get rid of images and quickly stood up. That your little movement didn't get unnoticed by Jungkook, as he sent you a smirk like he knew exactly what you was thinking. You could, you could feel your cheeks heated up at the attention you was getting from him. Can you lift your arms a little? You asked silently and he did as you said. You started to wrap his side by going into circles around him as quickly as you could so he didn't need to hold his arm in the air and hurting himself more than he already is. After you fixed his torso, you stopped in front of him and looked at him. Is that it? You asked as you let your eyes skip over his body to check for any more injuries. Yeah, I'm fine. I think that's mostly it, he said while looking at you. Thank you, he added with a smile and you nodded at him. Don't mention it. Go lay down on the bed and sleep. You said as you moved his cover a little so he could lay down. He did as you said, and you went to the bathroom where you saw painkillers and brought him to, along with the glass that you found on the nightstand next to his bed and filled with water. Here, these are painkillers, you said, and put them on the nightstand along with a glass of water. Do you need anything else? You didn't eat that much of the lunch. Do you want me to bring you something to eat? You asked, and he started to chuckle. No, you don't need to. I'm fine. I'm just tired, so I'm gonna go to sleep. You should go to it's late, he said, and you nodded while turning around and heading towards the door. As he opened the door, he called from the bed. Thank you again. You really didn't have to. Good night. You turned and sent him a wide smile, then exited, and after wishing him good night. When you got in your room and lay down, you instantly fall asleep without worries about when they will come home or if they will come alive or not.